If you're thinking about moving to Houston and you have no idea where to start, you don't know where the good neighborhoods are, where the dodgy neighborhoods are, where the best schools are, where the plant towns are, where to get some of the best coastal living, if you don't know where any of those things are, then you definitely need to stay put for this video. I'm going to give you some of my hidden gems, some of the things that I wish I knew when I moved here, and we're going to hop right into it right now. Really quick, right before we get into everything, hit the comment section right now and tell me where you're watching this video from and where in the Houston area that you're thinking about moving. Hit the comment section down for me right now. The first thing that you got to know is that Houston itself is massive. There are in fact parts of Houston that are an hour away from other parts of Houston with little to no traffic. It's just that big. And throughout all of this span of what we know is Houston, Houston basically is the center loop, the 610 loop, and we've had different circles and different loops that have expanded from the inner loop to create and give access from some of our city suburbs that are connected to the inner loop of Houston. Pull out the old math Cartesian plane, north, south, east, and west, and kind of look at the different quadrants and the differences between north and south in the greater Houston metro. And let's hop right into it and talk about all the nuances of everything you need to know before you make that move here. So this is Houston, and if you've never taken time to really just soak this map in to look at all the diversity and all the different city suburbs around Houston, this is what it looks like. And when I moved here in 2015, many of these areas that are definitely like city suburbs now that are booming, that have a lot of development and all this stuff in it right now, weren't even thought of when I moved here in 2015. They were just kind of small little country towns. And so, not to get you overwhelmed out the gate, but let's do what we said we were gonna do out the gate. So we're gonna do, and luckily Houston does a great job of having a grid that we can basically follow. So from east to west, we're gonna cut the city of Houston in half using I-10. And then if we go from north to south, we can use 45 as the north divider, and we can use 288 as the south divider. And looking at I-10, if you just look at I-10, north and the south, they look completely different. They give different vibes. It's a different lifestyle, in my opinion, when it comes to being north versus south here in the greater Houston metro. One of the biggest things that you'll notice, especially if you're coming from somewhere that is super green, super lush, super pretty, you'll see that once you kind of get south of I-10, things are just browner, they're flatter, they're just less pretty when you're kind of hugging these city suburbs that are down south. Contrary to that, as you go kind of more north, and especially if you're outside of 99, things are very lush, things are very green, very pretty as you kind of get to these Crosby all the way up to Conroe, which is a booming, one of the fastest growing communities out there right now. But all of this is very green, very lush. When you go a little bit more south, the developers kind of just decimate everything, just mainly because it was old farmland, and whatever trees were there, you get rid of those and you just build as much or as many houses as you possibly can. And so the first differentiation that you have to have is that north and south, the overall landscape and what you see when you look outside of your window is going to be drastically different. So now that we've done a little comparison between north versus south, let's look at the map again and do one for east versus the west. On the west side, you're going to have a lot of, this is basically suburb town on the west side. So as you kind of get out here, some of your biggest, most heavy hitters of our master plan communities, some of our fastest top selling master plan communities are out on the west. You got your Alianas, your Cinco Ranches, you have your Bridgelands, your Town Lakes, you have your Sunterras, your Cane Islands. The list goes on and on when you go out west. As you move east kind of gets sketchy to me, because once you get to this part of the world, it starts to get very kind of like plant-like out east. And as you're kind of riding 10 on your way out up in this like Deer Parky, Channel Viewy kind of area, there's going to be plants up here. As you kind of go more towards the like LaPorte area out here, Pasadena area. There's a lot of plants just kind of like out in this area. Some of the not the best places of the world, and I was always kind of grown up around that smell, so I'm familiar with what they mean when they say that. And out there, it definitely has a different kind of like smell to it when you're just out in that area. But on the same token, I have people that love it out there. They say it gives them a vibe of community. It's just what they're comfortable with. It's growing up with everything that they've ever known. But the biggest differentiation that you're going to see between West and East is that West Houston, you're given suburban utopia. East side of Houston is giving plant life, a little bit blue collar worker on the east side. And so if North and South is kind of pretty lush versus dry and flat, then West is giving coming home for Christmas versus the East is giving its plant life. And so that's the biggest difference that I would say for those two sides. And so now that we've kind of done the basic breakdown of North versus South, East versus West, now let's do a deep dive and kind of work our way out from the center of the city and work our way out to some of these suburbs that you may be looking at. Getting things started with the centermost loop around Houston, and that is the 610 loop. And many of your interstates are going to have interchanges between 610. Those are some of the worst traffic places on earth. Specifically 45 is one of the worst, but all of these are pretty bad. But what you're going to see is that within the loop, there's such a huge variety of different styles of living, different types of neighborhoods, some that are super elegant, super, multi-million dollar communities, some that are, gentrifying Black and brown communities that are becoming something newer at this point. And what you'll see very quickly is that unlike, or very so much like bigger cities, once you get in the loop, the deed restrictions and the zoning gets a little bit freer once you're in the city. And so you'll have areas, for example, like the Heights, where you'll have multi-million dollar properties in here, and they'll be on side of what used to be an old like pawn shop or an old gas station. And you'll have little bungalow houses in here that look so run down, and they'll be next to like a reclaimed and rebuilt mansion right on side of it. Or in areas like Northside, similar kind of thing. This was a traditionally Black and brown community, and now you're seeing a lot of townhome developments kind of pop up in here. Similar thing with Fifth Ward. You'll see a lot. This was a traditionally brown or traditionally Black community that has now had a lot of development with the inclusion of the East River project that is bringing a lot of housing options and restaurants in the East River 9-hole golfing. Very, very much so close to one of the areas that was seen as one of the most dangerous and one of the least desirable, is now having a huge boom in this area. In the loop also includes the medical center, and it's the largest medical center in the US. And it houses, I think I read a stat that it's like over 300,000 medical professionals work in the Texas Medical Center. And within here, you have your bayous, which is a family favorite for the Lathans. You got Memorial Park, beautiful places that you can walk, bike, do the different trails, different golf places that you can go to. Herman Park out here is my favorite golf place, kind of in the loop, super affordable and pretty nice course. You'll also see that as you kind of fan out away from the loop, things get a little bit more chainy. You're still going to have your chains and stuff kind of in here. On the flip side of that, you'll have more kind of niche things, or more, I would say, like Texas staple things, like your turkey leg hut stuff will be in here. Other than that, there's a ton to do in the Houston metro pretty much at all time. You're going to get a wide variety of places that are super high dollar, super rolling in it, where these are multi-million dollar properties. You got to have a different tax bracket to be in some of these neighborhoods. And as you kind of work your way into the city, you'll see that there's a fingerprint that you can tell that this used to be kind of like an old black and brown community. Really quick, while I got you here, hi, my name is Aaron, and I help families and busy professionals buy luxury and new construction homes around Houston. If you're thinking about making a move out here, or if you're finding any value in this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any videos like this. But without further ado, let's hop right back into the video. So now that we've done 610, let's move to the next loop, and that is tollway 8. And so, like I just said, it is a tollway that basically goes around the next loop of Houston, which gives access to some of the first ring of kind of like city suburb areas that you're going to see in the metro. Some of the most popular ones in this section are going to be like your Humble area. You're going to have some parts of like Jersey Village out here. You'll have probably the nicer areas are going to be like this Memorial area. Is what to expect for that next one is just kind of like those parts of the city that aren't quite suburbs, but they aren't quite city. That's probably the best way that I can categorize what is in between 610 and 8. It's like almost suburb, but not quite suburb. Acres Homes is kind of one of those places that's started to develop outside of the Heights, where you're seeing a lot of townhome communities and things pop up, gentrifying that area, which was again like a traditionally black and brown community as well. And you're kind of doing that same thing, but I would say that it's a little bit nicer on the west side versus being on the east side. Now, that's not to say that all these communities on the east are bad, or that is, you know, not somewhere that I would live. There are some pretty communities over here to the east, but I would say as far as infrastructure, as far as having shopping and things like the Memorial City Mall, as far as having eateries and things up along 290, I think this section of between 610 and 8 are just a little bit better over here, just a little bit better on this side rather, because over here isn't as developed. And so that's how I would categorize that second loop, which is 8. Now we're going to fan out a little bit more, and we're going to go and talk about 6. So 6 is just outside of 8. 6 doesn't do a complete loop around Houston, but it does do an interesting thing where it basically does everything from the west side of the map. So everything over here from almost Cypress, and it runs all the way damn near down here to Galveston, but it doesn't complete the loop. But out here on 6, it is another kind of interesting thing, because again, out west, we're kind of getting to that suburban utopia out here. So what you'll see is in this part of the world, you'll have the outskirts of Memorial going into Energy Corridor. As we get out towards 6, you're going to start getting to like your Copperfield, which is in that Cy-Fair, one of the most desirable kind of school districts. Heading up towards the outskirts of Cypress, you'll start to be kind of in that area. Your Jersey Villages out here, your Champion Forest, all of these kind of pretty communities that people kind of know and love are gonna hover around this little section of 6. If you follow 6 all the way down here, you'll kind of get to the coastal areas. That's kind of what makes up this zone, Houston, and it has beautiful variety. Some of the more popular ones that I can see from my clients that are moving here is definitely going to be like the Pearland. I have a lot of clients that are moving to the Manville area, the Iowa Colony area. Sienna is an old plantation that is one of the most beautiful master plan communities. Is just absolutely massive, absolutely gorgeous. So we got one more loop to push out to. We have the Grand Tollway 99, and that is the biggest loop. It's almost completed. This one gives access to so many communities that when I moved here would not have been considered Houston. They would have just kind of been a little bit country. Places between Cypress and Hockley have become more in play. Places between this Waller and Katy have become more in play because you have the Grand Tollway over here. As you go south, you're going to have some of our old heavy hitters as far as big master plan communities. You got Cinco Ranch, you got Aliana out here. You have, parts of Sugarland. It gives you a lot of easy access to Richmond, Rosenberg. It gives you some easy access in parts to some of these kind of like Fulshire communities. Most of my clients tend to go, I would say, like west of 45 when they're buying, but I do have some clients that are looking out in this kind of like Porter, New Caney area. On my way out to Baton Rouge for the holidays, I saw, you know, just as this extension finished out here off of 10, there's like 10 communities that have popped up in this Mount Bellevue. So I'll probably have to end up going out there to get some footage at some point in time. I've had no clients that want to be that far east yet. As you move from that last I-6 all the way out to 99, that's where like the bulk of our major suburbs kind of start, and they basically surround that 99 from every angle out here in the greater Houston metro. Houston is a beautiful place. I love it. It has a lot going for it. And in fact, we just scratched the surface by just talking about maps on this video. If you found any value in this and you want to know more, I definitely think that you're going to love this video right here.